Hello and welcome to the Albies. This is where the Albion Obsessed Podcast do their end of season awards. Today we are going to award in excellence across the season to players who have done very, very well. But before we get into this, let us see who we've got on the show today. We welcome Joseph Sales.
In the name of fashion. How are we? How we going?
Oh, wow.
Tell me who you are wearing this evening.
I just fancy the change, and this just feels right for me. It really does.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and let's see who gets the award.
Stars in their eyes.
So, you single, Joe?
I don't know what you're on about, Toby. It's fashion. Fashion. Anyway, yeah, no, I'm all right.
Good. I'm not going to keep up that voice. I'm not going to keep doing it. Dan, welcome to the podcast. You are looking absolutely dapper this evening, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well. I'm very, very excited. I have my old-fashioned, I have my bow tie, my lapel badge. I can't wait to get into it.
Absolutely gorgeous. Curtis, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Very good, my friend. Very happy to be here. Very happy to celebrate our achievements for the season. Let's do it. Let's do this.
Very good, very good. Aaron Stevens, we welcome you. How are you, my friend?
Good evening, mate. Very well, thank you. Yourself?
I am very warm, and I know lots of people on this show are also very warm. Can you hear the thunder? Don't know if you could hear that. That was thunder in the background, so apologies if that interrupts things this evening. Kudos to you, Aaron, and to Dan, who are wearing jackets. You are very brave men, and you are suffering for your art this evening. Toby, welcome back to the pod. How are you, my friend?
Yes, very well, thank you. I mean, some people say that we're all warm. I'd say we all just look hot. Do you know what I mean? Sprinkle a little bit of that in there.
Love it.
But contrasting Dan, he's got an old fashioned. I've got a new fashioned. I feel very Zoomer today, and got the short tie to match. My small things collection. I've got the small tie, so ready to get started.
By the way, out of context, Toby, that sounds mad. Completely mad.
We were having such a classy intro.
I did it. Max.
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you.
Okay, professionalism. Dagan, welcome back to the pod, my friend. How are things stateside?
Just fine. Warm here, but we do have AC. I am all dressed up with no place to go. There is a tie beneath the beard. I'm here and ready.
And I am very jealous of your AC. I wish I had some. Cam, welcome back to the pod. How are you keeping, my friend?
I'm good, thank you. Like probably everyone else, very warm currently. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. And with last but not by no means least, we welcome back Chloe. Chloe, welcome back. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Looking forward to this evening. Not too hot because I'm wearing a dress, but yeah.
Tom, is this our first ever full house?
This is our very first ever full house. So let's tell the viewers and the listeners how this is going to work. We have some categories. We have signing of the season. We have most improved player. We have unsung hero. We have villain of the season. Performance of the season. Young player of the season. Goal of the season, and finally player of the season, and they are in these lovely, wonderful golden envelopes. What we will do is we will go category by category. I will tell everyone the nominees. The team have already voted and they have sent their votes to me anonymously, so they're not going to reveal who they voted for, but what we'll do is we'll have an open forum to discuss each person in that category and how we think they've gotten on this season. So without further ado, we are going to start with the signing of the season category. Now, this was quite a category to put together because Brighton and Hove Albion didn't make too many signings this season. Not many who featured for the first team at any rate. So, let's break down the nominees for the signing of the season category. We have Pervis Estupinian, Facundo Buonanotte, Levi Colwell, and Julio Enciso. So let's start off by talking about Purvis. In my opinion, Purvis has been a fantastic signing, brought in to replace Mark Cucurella, who went to Chelsea. And in my opinion, he has been a significant upgrade in all departments and has had a sensational season. I now open up the floor for the Albion Obsessed team to tell you their views.
I mean, what more can you say than the guy that's nominated in every Premier League team in the season, across the internet, across the Premier League, across Sky Sports? What a player, perfect replacement and some on Cucurella. If Chelsea were in for a left back this season, we'd be getting double what they paid for Mark. Outstanding.
I want to draw everyone's attention back to when we first signed him in the first interview that he made, where he said that he was going to fight for every ball like it was the last time he would fight for a ball, like it was the last time he would play on a football pitch, and that is just, that came across in most of his performances. I think there were, maybe you could count on one hand how many poor performances Purvis had, and it sort of became the norm for Purvis just to put in an 8 out of 10. And it was only when the 10 out of 10s came out, people said, oh, yeah, Purvis had a really good game. And I don't think we actually mentioned him overly enough, really, across the season, maybe except for at the end. But, yeah, all credit to him for being nominated.
Yeah, I mean, he was just so consistently good throughout. I mean, he had big boots to fill when Cucurella was here. He was regarded as, the best left back we've had in a long, long time. The last kind of proper left back we've had since Bong, and a big upgrade on Bong. Sorry to the Bong haters, but he just slotted straight in. He played fantastically well every game, and as you say, Joe, you could count on one hand the amount of bad performances he had.
Purvis sort of typifies how Brighton is known for their quality business. Sell the player of the season for 62 million, bring in a replacement at 18 million, who's even better. That sort of summarizes, I think, what Brighton has become known for across the league and across the world. So for me, that the strength of the signing is sort of who he had to step in and replace, and the quality of which he brought doing that.
Yeah, he's just really impressed me. I just think him as a person, his ability and everything, he's just really impressed me, because obviously I knew nothing about him, and I did say that, we'll sign someone that I've never heard of, as we always tend to do. But yeah, he's just been outstanding, and I'm just really happy that he's managed to kick on, and yeah, more power to him.
Yeah, because I mean, it's so rare when players come in that they fit right into the system and they immediately get the idea of how the manager wants to play, and he excelled. I mean, he did fairly well under Graham Potter, but under De Zerbi, he just immediately picked up exactly what he was supposed to be doing. He provided fantastic defensive cover. He could provide attacking returns as well. I mean, he's the perfect left back in my eyes. I can't see us upgrading on him.
The thing is, when someone comes in with passion as well, it always lights a fire in my heart, because too many players nowadays are just not about the football itself or about the club itself, about the money, and he's just a true professional in every way.
Very good, very good. So let's now move on to Facundo Buonanotte, the second man in the category, a youngster that was brought in January, had made a few starts, especially towards the end of the season, when fatigue was setting in. Got himself a goal against Nottingham Forest and played very well in that game against City. What did we all make of his contribution in the latter half of the season?
He's awesome. The thing is, I've been a hater of Buonanotte, but I think I just didn't wake up and smell the coffee. I think that you look at how Enciso started his life at Brighton, very similar. Maybe hogging the ball a bit too much, but the quality's there. You can see it. You can see that he's got a quality on his ball. I think there was one shot that he took that I thought, oh, you should cross that. And he took a shot and it almost dipped in. For me, I think that he's going to be like an Enciso character in the future.
It's just all about patience with these young players, especially coming from such a young age from a completely new, different country, different culture. It's so lucky that we've had obviously Alexis, Purvis, and other people that have had to adapt in that same way. So it's really just a matter of patience, and that's what I want to just sort of put across to everyone that has written these players off already, that or have felt like they aren't good enough yet. Just look at, as Toby said, Julio and Enciso is the prime example of they can come good. It just takes time.
Let's talk about Julio, you said then, another young player in this category. Started off, as you say, Joe, very sort of keeping the ball at his feet. In an interview that Adam Lallana did earlier in the season, he said that sometimes in the training sessions, they would be shouting and screaming at him because he was trying to do too much himself. But what an important player he has turned out to be. He's netted some absolute screamers this year, scored his first goal against Bournemouth, but then scored an absolute screamer against Chelsea and Manchester City, a goal that we will be talking about a little bit later. He's had a really positive impact on the team this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been absolutely fantastic. Initially, he started, as Toby mentioned earlier, he, potentially a little, hogging the ball, kind of making the wrong decision. But in almost no time at all, he's seemingly matured. He is making the right decision more often than not now in such a short space of time. He scored some absolutely fantastic goals. I mean, he's got an incredible right foot on him. But he can also score with his head, as we've seen against Arsenal, I think it was. He's proven to be very, very good for us. A really smart signing.
Very much so. And the last man on the list was Levi Cole. This was a man that I wasn't overly convinced when we signed him, Curtis. A loan signing, developing another team's player at the expense of someone like Jan-Paul van Hecke didn't sit right with me, but actually he's turned out to be another astute piece of business from the club, and many fans are hoping we manage to get him back on a permanent. What have you made of Levi Cole all season?
Best defender for me.
Oh, sorry. What?
Best defender from me, personally.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think he's been a Rolls Royce. You notice when he's not there, and you notice when you've got other players trying to play that role, it's not quite the same. And I think if we don't sign, I think it'd be a big miss in the next season, personally. And I wasn't a fan of this loan move anyway. At first, I just felt it was a bit of a cop out, but. Get the deal done, pay what they want, or do a deal with Caicedo and Chelsea. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think there's still legs in this Levi Colwill move. Right then, it's time to reveal who the Albion Obsessed team thought was the signing of the season. And the winner for signing of the season goes to... Pervis Estupiñán. I don't think many people would have begrudged Pervis that accolade. An absolutely sensational signing he was, especially when we lost our player of the season. Right then, let's move on to the next category, which is the category of most improved player. So this is the player who has improved most this season. Right then, the nominations are Jason Steele, Solly March, Dennis Undav, and once again Julio Enciso up for his second nomination of the evening. Aaron, I'd like to come to you on this one. Jason Steele. Jason Steele has spent the majority of his time at Brighton and Hove Albion as second and even third choice goalkeeper, but at West Ham he became first choice keeper and hasn't been dropped in the league since. Many have put this down to his passing ability with his feet. What have you made of Jason Steele's rise to number one?
Yeah, it's impressive. I think it's a mixture of a couple of things. I mean, it's the mixture of Sanchez's attitude, but it also just proves how good a player Steele actually is. He's taken a lot of sticking part in the past at Sunderland for being their worst goalkeeper in their history, but yet he's now number one goalkeeper at a top six club. That's an accolade that doesn't happen to many goalkeepers. From, like I said, from getting abuse constantly at Sunderland to, coming up, being patient, waiting for his time, and his attitude is spot on. It's exactly what it should be as a in theory, number two. A number two goalkeeper, you have to accept that you're not going to play every week, but you still train as hard, you still play as hard when you get the opportunities, and he's taken the opportunities, and I think that's all credit to him, all credit to De Zerbi as well for making that move, because that in the word of De Zerbi, that takes balls. It takes balls to make a big call like that, and I don't think he's put a foot wrong.
No, not at all. Cam, really quickly, what have you made of Jason Steele's rise from, as Aaron has said, the quote-unquote worst goalkeeper Sunderland have ever had to the starting goalkeeper for a top 6 side?
It's very impressive, and as Aaron touched upon, you have to commend his attitude, like how he has been in that number 2 role for so long, and then he gets his chance and he's taken it with both hands, and he's been so key to the way we play under De Zerbi as well. His distribution is just so good, and he's so calm under pressure. Like in the lead up to Enciso's goal, it was his like pass out, and I remember watching it and I was like panicking, like thinking, oh god, they're going to give it away, but it was so calm and collected and picked out the pass wonderfully. And yeah, it's fantastic what he's done this season. He's a very, very good goalkeeper for us.
Moving on to Solly March, Joe. We said at the start of this season, when he changed his shirt number from 20 to 7, it was going to be a big year for our boy Solly. And what a season it has been. His numbers of assists and goals over the last few seasons haven't been fantastic, but this season he really seems to have kicked on under Roberto De Zerbi.
An incredibly dramatic change of form for him in front of goal. We always rated how hard he worked, and a few people said to me on social media, oh yeah, he might work hard, but he's League One standard. And now he's scoring goals, getting assists in a team that have just qualified for Europe and will be a massive part of our European tour next season, and how much we missed him towards the end of the season as well. This goes to prove to you how important he was for us and how important he has always been for us ever since breaking into that first team. I've always rated Solly March. You guys know how much I love him and how happy I am that he's had the season of his life. And I think he's probably feeling very lucky that Roberto De Zerbi has come in, put his arm around him and given him that confidence to be the player that we always thought and knew Solly March could be.
Very true. Chloe, what have you made of Solly March's season? It seemed to be that Southampton game that he just seemed to kick on, the bouncing back from the disappointment of the Charlton game where he missed a penalty. But after that, he seemed to be flying.
Yeah, I think it's weird with March. There's been a couple of times in the last few seasons where I've sort of been thinking maybe we could improve upon him in our starting team, but then he got moved to left wing back and he did an amazing job there. And then recently I was thinking he's just not getting enough goal involvement, for an attacking player. If we are looking to push into the top 10 in Europe, then we really need someone getting goals. But De Zerbi obviously has just given him the confidence, and that was all he needed to actually just improve so much. Not just his goals, his balls in look better. I can't believe how much he's improved, to be honest. I've been very, very impressed with him. And yeah, I don't think he's the sort of player you can ever write off. He just keeps going up a level.
I have one thing to say before we move on, and that is, where is Pete?
Where you at, Pete? Where you at? For those of you who do not know, we did an episode with a friend of ours called Pete, and he said he didn't rate Solly March at all, but yet here he is on this list. Next up, Next up on this list, we have a man whose form at the start of the season wasn't fantastic. His first touch wasn't great. Even question marks about his weight and his fitness were being asked. But again, towards the end of the season, this man changed everything. His name is Dennis Undav, and in the last, 8 games, he had 5 goals. What a season, Dagan. What a turnaround it was for the German forward.
Yeah, I think the story for Undav is some great personal struggles coming into a new place and a new team and trying to find his footing and maybe losing a little bit of confidence along the way. And I think, again, it took a little bit longer than it did with Solly, but under De Zerbi, I think the common thread is building confidence in players and getting the best out of them consistently. And I think it took a little longer for Undav because of what he'd gone through, but I think we started to see the quality that he had in finishing and in the build-up play, right? And in finding space, creating space, making runs through and dragging the first center back out of the way to create an opening on the other side of the pitch. I think we talked about that specifically in one of the goals that was created. He found his footing in a major way. It was great to see. And you could see the relief from him and the genuine excitement of the team. when he did finally break through and get that first goal. And I think it was a chill moment for everybody.
It certainly was. Now, Curtis, you were someone who stood by Dennis Undav for a long time. You rightfully said that he hadn't been given the opportunities in the league, but then he suddenly seemed to burst onto the team and make a name for himself. How happy are you to see Dennis firing on all cylinders now?
Immensely happy. I sort of feel like I told you so, but I'm just really happy that he's been able to clearly get that confidence, which I believe that's been a key word for this. You know, all these players are heavy in confidence, and see how they're doing. You know, so I feel like, you know, this was really imperative for him, because it definitely could have been something that at the end of the season he could have moved on. You know, there were reports of like Burnley and stuff being interested in him and stuff like that, but I think he stays now, and I think he kicks on next season for us. So.
And the final man in the category was Julio Enciso, who we have already spoken about, so we'll keep this last little bit brief. Yes, a big change in his physique over the year, his mentality, and just an all-round huge improvement for the young man that we saw for the first time playing pre-season games. So we'll be short about Enciso, as we've already spoken about him previously. So, without further ado, let us reveal who won the coveted Albies Most Improved. I think the thunder behind me is doing that enough, to be fair. Will Tom disappear again before revealing the answer? Stay tuned to find out.
Tune in next week.
Yes. And the winner of the Albies prize of Most Improved Player of the Season goes to... Where you at, Pete?
Solly
March.
Yes.
A phenomenal season from the Hailsham lad, and just been absolutely phenomenal. We hope he returns from his injury as quick as is possible.
So deserved.
Yeah, massive change.
And what a coveted award the Albies are. I'm sure,
yeah,
you know.
Everyone wants to be, nominated for an Albie. So congratulations so far to Purvis and Solly for their fantastic awards. Awards may or may not be in the post terms and conditions.
I know they're watching this, and Solly said he was gutted that he couldn't be here to receive the award and to give a speech. So this one goes to you, Solly.
Yeah, and same with Purvis. He lent me this awful tie, and he was really sad he couldn't be here. So.
Yeah, I mean, good, fair play to him for lending it though, because I think it's one of his best, isn't it? So let's move on to the next category, which is the Albies Unsung Hero category. This is where perhaps we celebrate those who aren't in the limelight all of the time, but their contributions are much needed and welcomed nevertheless. The nominations for the Albies Unsung Hero Award are Adam Lallana, Danny Welbeck, Joel Veltman, and a surprise nominee, Andrew Crofts from the coaching setup. So let's talk about Adam Lallana, Dan. Adam Lallana is a player that whenever he features in the starting 11, you can always guarantee that there is some hate on Twitter or social media about how Adam Lallana is old and slow and should not be anywhere near the starting 11, but he has been so important. Did you know, Dan, he was the first British player to score this season in the game against Wolves?
I did. I may have seen it on a recent episode of a podcast from an unnamed channel. Albion Obsessed, here we are. No, I mean, I don't think he gets the love he deserves, hence the nomination in this category, right? Not only is he a fantastic player for us, he provides invaluable experience to all of the players in the dressing room. He's got so much experience, incredible experience from the highest level of football possible. He's played for England, he's played in the Champions League. He's just an incredible player, an incredible talent. When he's injury-free, he's a fantastic player on the pitch for us as well. He's scored a couple of goals, he's provided an assist this season. Without that influence on the pitch or behind the scenes, we may not have had such a good season. And I remember listening to the Paul Barber podcast on High Performance or something, the Jake Humphries thing, about Paul Barber talking about when Potter left, and he called up Adam Lallana and Andrew Crofts. Kind of ties in a couple here, but he called them up to talk about taking training the next day and just kind of speaking about it. and he couldn't get through to them because they were already at the ground preparing for training. And I think that's just absolutely incredible. You know, it's to have that sort of dedication and be that willing to step up and help is just fantastic. You know, he is very rightly, I think, in this category. You know, he could be in others, but very rightly in this category.
It sort of feels like he's a bit of a... Sorry, just quickly. It sort of feels like he's a bit like a surrogate stepfather to all of them out there, you know? And I made this joke to Joe recently, but I said, not only is he a stepfather, he's the father that stepped up. So...
Oh, I love that.
He certainly did. Now, Cam, I was going to actually come to you about this point that Dan just made about Adam Lallana stepping in when Graham Potter left. That should tell you everything you need to know about the measure of Adam Lallana. Someone who, without even needing to be asked, stepped up to fill a gap that was left. How much does that increase your respect for the man?
Oh, greatly. The fact that he was willing to do that, you know, he's not even on the coaching team. He's a senior player, and that's what you want to see from your senior players, isn't it? Like, you just want to see them a little bit of leadership. And I always notice how when he's on the pitch, he's always talking to everyone. He's always talking to players around him, and he's always trying to encourage them. And when he's on the sideline as well, if he's not playing or if he's sub. So yeah, he's immensely invaluable to our team, definitely.
Certainly is. Another player who exudes experience and confidence on the pitch, Toby, is Danny Welbeck. I believe it was the first loss of the season where we played against Fulham and Danny Welbeck did not feature. I remember on the podcast after the game saying how much we missed Danny Welbeck. How important is Danny Welbeck, similar to Adam Lallana, not just for his work on the pitch, but his work off it as well?
Unbelievable, and I have no doubt that part of Ferguson's success this season has come from the fact that Welbeck is alongside him, helping him through every step. I see a lot of hate for Danny Welbeck on Twitter, the same as Lallana, just something about older players that people just tend to hate, and I think that's from a naive portion of our fans, perhaps maybe younger themselves, that don't quite understand what Welbeck can offer to the team. He might miss chances, as all strikers do, but I guarantee you he'll get double the amount of chances another striker would, just because of how good he positions himself, just because of how good he can move his body. Yeah, complete unsung hero. It belongs in this category because he's public enemy number one for a lot of people, but actually he's the one that goes out at night dressed as Spider-Man and saves the city.
Oh, that's nice, Toby. And Chloe, he scored that phenomenal goal. I believe it was against Liverpool as well. He has been fantastic this season. He's cropped up with some important goals. And again, another player that just seems to look after the young lads. I know that him and Tariq Lamptey have a very special relationship. It'll be sad to see that special relationship potentially go if Tariq does. But on Danny Welbeck, Chloe, what have you made of his season?
Yeah, I mean, he had some phenomenal performances sort of around the start of the season. I remember against Manchester United at Old Trafford, you know, he could have been man of the match that day, even though he didn't score. You know, his work rate is just tremendous. And yeah, I think some of the goals he scored, so important. I think he's just a really important part of the squad. And yeah.
Very much. So let's move on to the next person in the category, Joe, and that is Joel Veltman. Veltman, a player who's been asked to fill in at all sorts of positions, has been our right back of choice more often than not. And again, another player that we feel that when he's not there, we miss his presence.
I just love him, Tom. I just absolutely adore Joel Veltman. I think he's the model professional, along with many others in the squad. It always gives, you know, at least a 7 out of 10. There's probably been maybe 1 or 2 occasions where you said, oh, Joel Veltman's had a stinker, but that's probably coincided with the whole team having a stinker. So yeah, for Veltman, he's definitely one of those that I think epitomizes this category, that he will go a whole season, no one will talk about him, but at the end of the season we'll be saying, where's Joel Veltman's new contract? Because he just deserves to be in this squad. He deserves to be on this European triumph with us, and hopefully he's a really important part of that next season as well.
Dagan, do you echo that? Do you think that it's crucial that the club tie Joel Veltman down to a new contract as soon as possible?
I do. I mean, I think he has a team option, so we can retain him for one more year potentially without extending the contract. Would certainly be nice to extend him. I mean, he's, I guess the term that I hear often is shithousery, right? He's the guy that sort of gets into it with everybody. I've learned the new football term there, but he's the guy who always seems to get into it with the other team's best player, and can sort of set the tone early on by, you know, maybe giving a little bit of an extra bit of bone crunch to a tackle, and he's just unafraid. Yeah, I did. Yeah. There's notes being made in the chat of a swear. Does it count in the terminology? I don't think it counts. I think I'm safe. I do try to keep it clean for the kids, folks. But yeah, no, I think Veltman, he brings that edge, and McAllister was the guy who brought that edge. So I'd be leery of losing one of the other guys in the club, and I think Caicedo does too. We need some enforcers, and I feel like he's a little bit of an enforcer. We can't afford, you know, to lose Dunk, so I think he plays that role, but is a little more restrained. Veltman doesn't have the same level of restraint. He knows he can pick up that red card and get subbed off, and it's not the end of the world. I think he plays his role really, really well.
And Wilfred Zaha is still in his pocket, screaming to get out. You can, if you all dim your volume, you can hear him. Can you hear that? There he is.
The only thing I have to say is Joel Veltman sends Zaha to the Saudi League, so...
And finally, in the category, we have Andrew Crofts. And Aaron, I'm going to come to you on this one as a person who has watched Andrew Crofts for a number of years as a player. He's transferring that into his coaching role. And very similar to Adam Lallana, he really did step up from coaching the under-23s, and then Potter left. And then he is being asked to step up and suddenly coach players that, for some of whom, aren't that much younger than he is. But, you know, that's a huge role and responsibility to fill in, to jump from the under-23s to Premier League coaching setup, and he's done so, and he's been an integral part of Roberto De Zerbi's team.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much similar to Lallana, really. I think the fact we're lucky enough to have people in the club with that mindset of, I will do whatever it takes to help this club succeed, is what we need. And I think, you know, I've seen, like you said, I've seen him play twice in a Brighton shirt, two different occasions in a Brighton shirt, and he's always been a fantastic leader. Then when we had him as captain the first time around, and I think he's just proved it again this year how valuable he is, not just for the under-21s. I think we've had him under-21s the last couple of years, and I think it's helped the youngsters come through into the first team, and I think having him here is only a positive thing.
It certainly is. So, it is time to reveal who the winner of the Albies Unsung Hero Award. The Unsung Hero Award here goes to... That was me opening the envelope. And the winner of the Unsung Hero Award goes to... Adam Lallana.
Very well deserved. Very well deserved.
Well done, Adam. I'll text you over a picture of your award later, mate. Congratulations, you were superb. Thank you very much for your efforts on and off the pitch. Long may it continue. Going from hero to villain. So, this season we have got a few villains, and we have decided who they are.
I wonder who we could have picked.
Who's it going to be?
Yes, I know. Right. Well, the nominees for the Albies Villain of the Season Award are VAR, Potter, Caicedo's agent, and Fabrizio Romano. So there are the nominees for the Villain of the Season. Joe, let's talk about VAR. I don't think I've ever seen you as angry as I did after the Spurs game.
Tottenham Hotspur. Where are you now, you pricks? That's all. On to Toby. Toby wants to say more on VAR. But yeah, Tottenham,
The thing is, when you're talking about villains, and everyone you've mentioned, and Potter is, big villain, and I can talk about all of them as such a villain they are. When it comes to VAR, it's the one we've most consistently spoken about because it's every single bloody week, and it just ruins football. It just ruins football. There's nothing good about it anymore. Everything I've believed in, I thought I wanted VAR, I thought I did, but it's ruined football for me this year. And it really, there's a time in the season where I was like, if we lose Europe because of this shit, I can't be arsed with it. And they'll teach Dagan another word here. He said shithousery. Don't forget that VAR ruled out that Alexis McAllister thunder bastard. That is just, it's criminal. It's criminal that he was denied that goal, which would have been goal of the century. Puskas, bet on it, bet your house on it. That's all I have to say. The fact that that beautiful goal has been ruled out, that's enough for VAR for me.
And the goal against Palace as well, remember that one?
Drawing the lines on the wrong.
But let's not forget, VAR literally stands for villain-assisted referee. So that's
at the time of that Palace one, I was like so perplexed that they'd drawn the line to the wrong man. I put a screenshot on Twitter and it got a lot of traction on the Albion Obsessed Twitter page. And a lot of people were saying, oh no, it's the angle, you can't see that it's actually drawn to the correct man, blah, 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 blah. So I was a little bit like, oh, well, okay, then fair enough if I can't see the angle. But then the PGMOL apology came out and they admitted that they'd drawn it to the wrong man. How the f*** did you do that?
If it's the angle, Palace should be kicked out of the Premier League for not having better camera angles.
They should just be kicked out of the Premier League for everything else, Toby, to be honest. Anyway, let's move on to the next villain.
Oh, yeah, because I don't think many people are going to have much to say about this next person.
And we'll go straight to Aaron on this one.
So the next person is a man called Graham Potter and his coaching staff. He left the club, 5 games into the season? We were sat in 4th position, and he left us for Chelsea. Aaron, say your words.
Go on, mate. Let rip.
Beep, 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 beep.
To be fair, he sold his soul to the devil and it f***ed up. And I've enjoyed every minute of it, and it's been absolutely incredible. Seeing Chelsea fail brings such joy in my life, and the fact is that they're where they are now this season. And to be fair, they only, really, if I'm honest, they only stayed up because of Tuchel, and that's a nuts thing to say. Because if Tuchel didn't pick up those points, they would have been down there, without a shadow of a doubt. Potter's just a to be honest.
Oh my word!
Let me get this in quickly.
It's the only word I'll say, because he had it all here, and he f***ed it. And he took everybody else with him, and now the only ones left there are Bruno and Ben Roberts, I believe. And I doubt they'll be there next when Poch comes in, so they're now going to be out of the job. They'll probably end up working the Championship, because probably about their level, and start from there.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Bleep Obsessed.
No lies were detected. Chloe, I'm going to bring up a tweet you posted recently saying that Chelsea is where good players' careers go to die. I think that could be said for Graham Potter's career as well. Graham Potter, Ben Roberts, and as much as it pains me to say it, Bruno and the rest of the coaching staff, they had a stinker there, didn't they?
It's just funny. But the thing is, I could see it coming. Anyone with half a brain could see that, Chelsea weren't going to give him time. He wasn't going to do well there. It was just a poor match. So the fact that he went, just for me, says it's about money, all about money. And I do think the worst of the lot is Bruno, because he was a legend for us. Some people still say he is, but to be honest, I can't forgive him for leaving the way he did. And, if the Queen hadn't died and those games hadn't been postponed, we would have been in such a bad situation, having to play with our under-23s coach. And, it's just I think that covered a lot of how bad it really was. And yeah, I'll never forgive him for it. I can hold a grudge like you will not believe. And I think it's completely hilarious how it just all went tits up for them. And yeah, I hope it just continues to be honest. It's very funny.
I think I speak for everyone when I say rest in peace, Your Majesty.
Yes. Not in regards to Her Majesty, but in general, I quote now one of my favourite gifts from It Ain't Half Hot Mum. Oh dear, how sad. Oh well. Next up, we have Dagon, Moises Caicedo's agent, who tried to play Tony Bloom. I mean, what an idiot there. Enforcing a move out of the club to Arsenal. He sent him a message to post on his social media. Caicedo accidentally forgot to delete a keyword in there, which showed that he didn't write it. So a bit of a villain trying to force a move in January so late in the window.
It was almost too dumb to really view them as villains. Like the sort of hapless Scooby-Doo level villain maybe, but not real villain, right? Like, it was a joke. I mean, the whole thing was so amateur hour. And, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because they are still his agents. But I think it's just Caicedo and Hincapie are the only two sort of notable players that are managed by that agency. I think they're inexperienced. I think they had no idea what they were doing. I thought they saw a lucrative payday. They pushed their chips all into the table against the wrong poker player and ended up just, looking a fool. Will it hurt them in the long run? Probably not, because they'll probably still get a big payday whenever we do move Caicedo along. I hope it's not this year. But yeah, they're really laughable. It's hard to take them overly seriously as a villain. Perhaps they win the category, but I definitely just chuckled more. Maybe it's because it worked out. And Caicedo, to his credit, and I think there was a lot of debate about this, whether he would, mope or whether he would, continue to be the player that he had been. And he, to his credit, 100% was the player he had been. And I think even then some. I think he showed he had something to prove about the kind of person he was and really showed his loyalty to the club in going, all out the rest of the way, accepting a move to right back and playing it ably and well. I know we're not talking about Caicedo here, and we'll talk more about him later, but I think, yeah, he maybe saved his agents from being the villain through how he handled the rest of the year.
Rut roll, Moises.
Zoinks!
Boinks! Jinkies. Cam, I would like to get your opinion, if I may, on one Fabrizio Romano. Many hold Fab in high esteem when it comes to Twitter scoops, and he did not endear himself to the Brighton faithful on social media when it came to the sale of Marc Cucurella. According to him, it was nailed on that he was going to go to Manchester City, and then it was let's go, and then it never happened, and then he got embroiled in a bit of a Twitter spat between him and the club and Andy Naylor, and it was all just a bit messy. But yes, did not have a very good summer last year with Brighton Twitter.
No, and I find it quite funny in the way that he still doesn't put the Brighton hashtag in any tweets about us anymore. It's always the other club because of all that. Yeah, it wasn't great. It was quite annoying for all of us to see that daily, and it being so wrong in the end. And yeah, I don't think he's ever going to have as good a relationship with Brighton fans and even the club, to be honest. I know he probably wouldn't have done anyway, but any opportunity to have a decent relationship with the club is, I think, kind of gone. The club putting out that statement going, nothing is agreed yet, says it all. They don't really do that. So, yeah, not very popular with Albion fans. I don't think he will be for quite a while.
And who can blame them? Right then, it is time to reveal who the villain of the season has been. The coveted Albie that everyone wants.
Pull it out the mystery machine.
This trophy has a middle finger at the top of it, not a seagull.
No, it's a bird flipping it off like that.
I am shocked. Really shocked. the coveted Villain of the Season award goes to
Surely not Tom.
Graham Potter.
Can I just say, so well deserved. He is without a doubt the best category so far.
And
You know what,
he would have
guys?
gotten away with it too if it wasn't for us damn kids.
Graham Potter, get over here.
Right then, let's move on to another category called the Albies Performance of the Season Award. Now, this was a tough one to narrow it down because there has been some truly fantastic performances this season. The nominees are Leandro Trossard against Liverpool away, Alexis McAllister against Leicester at home, Pervis Estupiñán versus Arsenal away, and finally Billy Gilmore, happy birthday by the way, Billy Gilmore versus Wolves at home. So let's talk first, Dan, about Leandro Trossard against Liverpool. The first away player, I believe, to score a hat-trick since Andre Arshavin in like 2000 and something. So a pretty spectacular thing to do.
So yeah, Trossard away to Liverpool. Our first Premier League hat-trick, if I'm not mistaken. Our first ever game under De Zerbi. What a game it was as well. I think he scored in the 4th minute or something. So we he got going really, really quickly, which is something that if memory serves me right, we really struggled to do under Potter. But I mean, we're not here to talk about De Zerbi, we're here to talk about Trossard. But he had such a brilliant game. I mean, he played fantastically. He spent some of the time out on the left, some of the time through the middle, and no matter where he was just running the show. I mean, he made Alexander-Arnold look like an amateur, right? Alexander-Arnold could not keep up, no matter what he tried. He couldn't get close to him. Trossard was just untouchable at that point. The ball was sticking to his feet. It was really, really, really good. The first time I think I'd seen a player completely run the show in a long, long time.
Very good point. Well made. Thank you, Dan. Toby, you've mentioned already a goal from this very game. Alexis McAllister versus Leicester. We were denied perhaps what would have been the goal of the season thanks to a decision for Enoch Mwepu's toe being offside. But it should not detract from the fact that Alexis McAllister had a phenomenal game that day.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if memory's serving me correctly, but I don't think we started that game well, funnily enough, and I think that was during the Potter era, so it was actually, as Dan said, and yeah, he just sort of picked the team up by the scruff of their neck. It's almost like he got the Scooby snacks out at half time, and they were all running like dogs after that, and it's particularly McAllister himself. It was almost like he just had like the Midas touch that day. It was sort of just like everything he touches turns to gold, and it was incredible to see. And rightfully alongside that Trossard performance, because you're thinking, how can you pick a winner out of those two so far? And I know there's two more brilliant ones to come, so I'll let us move on.
Yeah, Chloe, you have put in many miles to away games this season. One of the, perhaps I thought, unsung performances of an away game was Pervis Estupiñán's game against Arsenal. He did score that day. However, I think that it wasn't just the fact that he scored, it was his overall play. He got a goal, he got an assist, and if you look at his heat map from after that game, it was just all over the place. We've spoken about how good Pervis has been generally, but how good, in your opinion, was he in that game?
Well, someone said earlier he's sort of putting in 8 out of 10s consistently. That was an 11 out of 10, that performance. He just absolutely ran the show, and as you said, scored a really good goal as well, and should have been his second of the season, but let's not talk about that right now. And I just think he's so consistently good, and then that game was just another level. And I just can't believe how good he is, to be honest. He absolutely ran the show that day, and that was just a terrific game all round. The whole team was good, but he stood out even among them.
Let's talk about running the show, Curtis. Our next nominee is Billy Gilmore, a player who has not featured particularly heavily this season. News has broken recently about some of the things he's had to deal with this season. But the performance against Wolves, considering he hadn't played all that much football, was absolutely phenomenal. His range of passing, his vision, his tenacity to win the ball back. After the game, Roberto De Zerbi said he was easily the best player on the pitch, and it was clear to see that a mile away. We talk about impacting a game, massive impact from the young Scot there.
You know, that performance reminded me of a very particular Scooby-Doo episode, actually. It was season 1, episode 6. No. Seriously. No, he's been fantastic when he's had to step up. I'm really, really happy for him. He's had to be patient, like a lot of the other players. And I'm so happy that he's been able to just get on there and really go for it. And he's been so impressive. And we're going to see a lot more of him in this next season, especially what with the amount of football that's going to be played. So I feel like a lot of these sort of bench players are going to get their chances to shine. But yeah, he's just been so impressive to me. So I'm really happy for him.
I mean, that day he made a pack of wolves look like a pack of a certain cartoon dog.
Scooby-Doo,
the Scooby-Doo references are
Don't be so childish, Joe.
Point. But I now have to turn to my golden envelope, where we can exclusively reveal the Albies performance of the season. That is the envelope opening. And the winner for the coveted Albies performance of the season goes to... Happy birthday, it's Billy Gilmore against Wolverhampton Wanderers. What a phenomenal performance.
Best birthday of his life.
I know. We'll be sending a birthday present to you in the post, my boy. So congratulations, Mr. Gilmore. Fantastic. Right then, let's move on to the young player of the season. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but Brighton have put in a habit recently of playing quite a few young players, and those young players seem to like scoring a lot. So let's talk about the nominees. Our first nominee of the evening is Evan Ferguson. Next up we have Julio Enciso, then Levi Colwill, and finally Moises Caicedo. Aaron, talk to me about Evan Ferguson, because Aaron, you may call me crazy, you may call me mad, but he reminds me of a certain striker we had at the turn of the millennium who was lanky, who was long, but had an eye for goal. What have you made of Evan Ferguson's season?
I mean, that in itself is quite a comparison. I wouldn't say he's difficult. I think he's had a fantastic season. I think he's been the missing link to what we've been looking for a while. Ever since we lost Murray, we sort of needed a bit of a target man, really, and we haven't really used it. Welbeck does what he's got to do, but you know, he can't last 90 minutes nowadays, well, very rarely. And I think Ferguson stepped up brilliantly well. I think ever since that first goal against Arsenal, he came on and bullied Saliba with absolute ease, and then he's come on leaps and bounds since then. And yeah, I think he'll go far. He's the Irish Haaland for me, I think.
Ooh, a big comparison there. Joe, Julio Enciso, we've spoken about the young man quite a lot this evening, but just summarise your overall impression of the young man for me.
I think he's got that sort of, and I don't want to say arrogance in a negative term, but he's got that arrogance to go right to the very top and be one of the very best footballers on the planet if he keeps his feet on the ground, if he keeps working hard. Because the trajectory this season alone has been nothing short of spectacular. And if he goes on next season to have a consistent season where he's hitting the numbers that he was towards the end of the season, I've said season a lot. I have just clocked that in my head, and now I've gone completely off what I'm saying. But if Enciso is, that consistent, then, my God, what a player we've got on our hands. And again, a player that we picked up for, in the grand scheme of things, pennies, and could sell on for an astronomical amount.
Very, very good. Cam, Levi Colwill. Levi Colwill played last season in the Championship. And as we've already spoken about him, he's obviously come here on loan. But I think he's already impressed enough for fans at least to be begging for his return. Just really quickly, Cam, your impression on Levi Colwill's season.
He's been excellent. He's so key to the way we play. At first, I wasn't, like you said earlier in the show, I wasn't too impressed with him to start with. I thought he was probably a little bit too casual sometimes. But he's honestly come on leaps and bounds, and yeah, we really need to do what we can to get him on a permanent this summer. As Aaron said as well, just pay Chelsea the money they want and just get it done.
This is a super serious award show, Toby. This is super serious.
Cam's out there making great points, and you're like, "Here's me on the Scooby-Doo." This.
It's all right. I'll allow it. It's funny.
Listen, that's we've all had a bit too much to drink. You know, even Aaron's had to call it a night there.
This is Albion Obsessed, guys. If you're not subscribed yet, go down and hit that subscribe button, because this is the high quality content that we provide for you.
We bring you the.
Do you want to do that in a bit more stereotypical YouTube thing, like smash the like button, guys, click that bell?
I can't do that.
Elbow drop the notification.
And
this is Albion Obsessed, watching the Albies.
Thanks, I hated that.
Dagan, Moises Caicedo, you've already spoken about him, and well, you've gushed about this young man's talent. He has had a phenomenal season. It's worth just remembering that he was on loan last season in Belgium, and he came back and he wasn't used, and then he burst onto the scene with about 6-7 games to go, and he has been one of the most important players in our squad. We noticed his absence when we played against Arsenal, and it really showed how important he is to the way we play. He has been phenomenal all season. Just really briefly, Dagan, your overall summary of Caicedo's season.
He is a destroyer. Teams actively played away from him to avoid him on the pitch. It was apparent very early on in the season, after the first couple of games, that teams just wanted no part of him. And if they tried to play through the middle, he was going to take the ball, and we were going to go their way with it. I mean, he just, the more and more I watched of other clubs, the more convinced I was of the level of dominance that he was bringing was really, really rare, and that we had a gem. And it was interesting, I wasn't here when we lost Basuma, but it seemed that people felt Basuma was going to be really, really hard to replace. And I think, again, we had the replacement in hand. I think that's where the trepidation is here, and maybe we should all just trust the process and trust Tony Bloom, that if he moves him, there's someone there. But he does seem sort of a singular talent that really may take some time to replace when and if he does move on. I think we're going to see him continue to do great things. I don't think he's a guy who's going to move on and sort of, wither into the nothingness of, well, he was good at Brighton, but he's, outside of that system, he's not stellar. I think he's going to continue to win honors and do really well, whether he's here or elsewhere.
As the chant goes, he came from Ecuador to win the Ballon d'Or, and he's a phenomenal talent. Now, I can reveal that the winner of this won by a single vote. It was incredibly tight. But now it is time to reveal the Albion Obsessed Albie for Young Player of the Season. I can exclusively reveal the Albion Obsessed Young Player of the Season award goes to Evan Ferguson by a single vote. It was very tight between Evan Ferguson and Moises Caicedo. I think that goes to show you how highly the Albion Obsessed team view those two players.
Aaron referenced Evan Ferguson as the Irish Haaland. I would say Haaland is the Norwegian Ferguson.
There you go.
I think it's really worth noting as well is that whoever wins these awards, everyone that's nominated deserves it, and even people that haven't been nominated have probably deserved some of these rewards. So worth noting.
We have 2 awards left. It is next up we have the coveted Albie for goal of the season, and there has been some absolute crackers this season, and we have had to narrow it down, however. So let us begin. Our nominees are Pascal Gross's second goal against Wolves, Dennis Undav's delightful chip against Arsenal, Julio Enciso's absolute thunder bastard against Manchester City, and Mitoma's silky skill against Liverpool in the FA Cup. Those are our nominations. Joe, Pascal Gross. He scored twice against Wolves. Both were phenomenal goals, and he has had a phenomenal season. What have you made of the German's goal contribution, and what did you make of that goal?
I think Cam's reaction says enough to when you said the word Pascal Gross. I think she pretty much swooned, and that is Brighton fans everywhere. You say that name, and he defines the word legend, in my opinion. And we've had the conversation of what defines a legend, and in our Premier League era, which we hope continues for a long time yet, Pascal Gross has been that icon that we look at when we say Brighton Hove Albion in the Premier League. And the man is my hero, everyone else's hero. He needs to stay at this club forever, because I cannot deal even with the thought of Pascal Gross leaving this football club. So yeah, a worthy nominee in this category.
Yeah, and that second goal was bloody good. It was blooming delightful. I mean, a lot of the goals that day, I mean, even, we talk about Undav's goals, both of Pascal's Gross could have been in here, but I had to choose the one, and I chose the second, which was the one on the volley. It was lovely. Next up, Dan, talk to me about Dennis Undav. He scored a chip against Wolves, and like all good seagulls, he wasn't satisfied with the single chip. He needed another, and he scored a delightful...
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, let's take a minute to applaud that. Let's take a minute. Before I talk about the goal, let's all give that a clap. Honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
The goal against Arsenal, which Aaron Ramsdale did his best Superman impression with a hell of a goal. Dan.
Oh, I mean, it was just fantastic. I mean, at that point, I really felt, yeah, we got this. We're going to win this. Arsenal were pushing so hard. They were on the title chase at the point. We all know how it ended up. Sorry about that. But they were playing the best football they could at the time, and we still just cut through them. And Dennis's goal, one of my favourite goals, of the season. Hence the nomination, right? It was a really, really nice lob over the keeper, over Ramsdale. He didn't have long to decide about what he was going to do, about how he was going to play, if he was going to try and go around Ramsdale, if he was going to kick it over him, try and go underneath him. And he just made the right choice, and it was absolutely fantastic. And the feeling was just pure euphoria at the time, because I thought, we got this. We can make Europe, right? This is kind of what's on the line. We're beating one of the best teams in the world, and it's just fantastic. It was just amazing. And the assist from Gross as well needs a shout out. Intercepting that pass from Trossard, but it was just, the whole thing was just magical.
Intercepting. Thanks, Tross. Cam, we've taught Dagan a new word today, and that was thunder bastard. I don't think there's any other word we could use to describe Enciso's absolute screamer against Manchester City. Where do you rank that in Brighton goals?
That is the best one I've ever seen live. Like, I was in the North Stand, and just seeing that arrow into the top corner, amazing. Just unbelievable finish. I thought his goal at Chelsea was fantastic, but that just eclipsed it. Like, to have the audacity to just, he was given so much time and space by City, just thought, hey, why not? I'm going to hit this. And it just flew into that top corner. And yeah, fantastic goal. And just one that will live on forever, I think, in the memories of Albion fans and Julio and Ciso.
Very much so. Scoring against Manchester City isn't for everyone. Sorry, Inter. Chloe, the last one on our nomination list is Mitoma against Liverpool in the FA Cup. This is the goal that was scored relatively late on. Mitoma chipped it over Joe Gomez, made him look a bit silly, and then tucked it away with aplomb. What did you make of the goal?
Yeah, you just thought this guy's a bit special. The skill he showed to control it, and it was just, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. You know, he's such a good player, and that goal was just phenomenal. And yeah, it obviously meant that we won that game and beat Liverpool again. So yeah, it was just phenomenal, and he's such a good player. Scored some great goals this season, but that one, the control of it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, it really was. And as I say, we've had to narrow down the categories because we've seen some absolutely fantastic goals this season. Danny Welbeck, as I said before, scored a really good goal against Liverpool that was very similar.
You know what hasn't been mentioned, and I know it, but it was Veltman's chested goal. I'm a big fan of that one. Big fan of that.
Oh.
It's not
Shout
just
out
about
McAllister's penalty against United as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't forget that.
McAllister's free kick against Leicester, phenomenal. Solly March, I think it was against Liverpool in the cup, in the league as well. Phenomenal goal.
Julio and Ciso away at Chelsea.
Yeah, Julio and Ciso.
We could go on.
Oh.
Yeah, by the way, McAllister, thanks for the memories.
How long we
Thanks
got?
for the memories.
Yeah. So there has been some truly phenomenal goals this season, but we had to narrow it down to those four, and I can exclusively reveal who the Albion Obsessed team voted for their Albies goal of the season. And the winner is... it's Julio Enciso against Manchester City.
Listen, I'm in my Kanye era here. Julio, that goal was great, but I actually truly believe that Alexis McAllister versus Leicester, the volley, deserved this win. I'm just saying that right now. And I'm young, wild and free. You know, I'm at this award ceremony. But
even with his tie on his head, everyone, that's how young and free he is.
Julio got
Right
the second
then.
place. He's fine with that.
That's a sign of protest, I think. That's a sign
Was
of
it
protest.
was it any
If
was it
only
any
that
shock?
was the goal.
Was it any shock that Enciso won this award, considering he won the Premier League goal of the season?
Premier League
He
goal
didn't
of
get
the
a
season.
clean sweep, though. I will say he did not get a clean sweep. So
All I can say about that Ciso goal is I'm not a religious man, but I think I felt like I found God at that very moment. It was just beautiful. Beautiful.
He was on the touchline, and his name is Roberto De Zerbi. Moving on.
right, it is time for our final award of the evening, the one that they all want, the most coveted award of the Albie collection. And for the first annual Albies, we have the following 4 nominations for our Player of the Season award. First up, we have Moises Caicedo. Next, Pascal Gross. Next, Lewis Carl Dunk. And finally, Pervis Estupiñán. So, Curtis, Moises Caicedo. Dagan has already glowed about him. He's given him a glowing recommendation from this year. Many would say he's our most important player. Where do you stand on Moises, and what a season has he had for you?
I mean, Moises hardly ever disappoints me, to be honest. I think the control he has out there, the way he's able to bully people off the ball, and he's just so impressive. He's so impressive. When he's on form, he's just unplayable sometimes, and it will be very sad to potentially see him leave this season. But yeah, it's an argument to say that he is probably one of our most important players that we have, and he'll be hard to replace. Absolutely.
Chloe, I'm going to keep this on Moises as it is the Player of the Season award. When Bissouma left, the Brighton faithful were very concerned because Bissouma was our midfield general. Has Caicedo eclipsed Bissouma?
Yeah, absolutely. he's just such an important part of our midfield. I forget how young he is. You know, when you said he was nominated for Young Player, I was like, oh yeah, he's only like a child, really. It just amazes me how sort of good he is, how he's quite mature when he's on the pitch as well. And I really, really hope that we can keep him this season, for next season. But who knows what will happen? And I'm sure wherever he ends up, he will do well. And yeah, he's just a joy to watch.
Fantastic. I will just insert here that when I want to watch the FA Cup game with my dad, I remember turning to my dad and saying, how have Brighton got a midfielder this good? I was mesmerised watching him. Cam, Pascal Gross, he has come under a bit of a renaissance in the last 18 months. Found himself benched quite often towards the end of Potter's reign of terror. But this season he has just been phenomenal. He's filled in almost every single position you can think of, bar goalkeeper. What have you made of Pascal's season?
He's just, ever since he's come to this club, ever since he's been in the Premier League, he's been, I'd say probably a Dunkel talisman, really. You know, he's, as you say, he's been so versatile this season, and he's done a fantastic job wherever he's played. You know, we all know he's not blessed with pace, but he's actually done very well at fullback against some very pacey wingers. And yeah, his goal contributions as well. I think this is probably his best goal scoring season. Quote me if I'm wrong. All good. But yeah, he's hugely important to his football club, and you can tell how much this football club means to him. When we made Europe, he was very proud of that, and it was lovely to see. So yeah, thank goodness we've got him tied down to another couple of years. And like Joe, I never want Pascal Gross to leave. Never.
No, and I don't blame you. Dan, Pascal Gross, believe it or not, once made his way into a certain worst 11. The culprit of worst 11, he shall not be named for legal reasons. Dan,
who did that? Who was that? Name and shame. Name and shame.
It was me. Okay, but because comes into my point now. I once voted for Pascal Gross in the worst Brighton 11 as a right back, because it was when Graham Potter was going through his experimental phase of playing Pascal at right wing back, and it was not great. But this season, Pascal Gross, as Cam rightfully says, has had to fill in at fullback, and he has done so excellently. He's done that at left back and at right back, and he's come across some pretty pacey wingers, and he's dealt with them very well.
Incredibly well. Unbelievably well. I mean, I thought of something which is sort of when I said I wanted to speak about Gross, I just thought about this. So he might as well have read the Kama Sutra, because he can fill in any position. Haha, cue laughter. I can add that in afterwards. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, he's been. I can see everyone laughing on me. It's fine.
He can happily plug my holes.
Oh my god!
He can happily plug my holes any day.
Perfect. I mean, let's say it's the old-fashioned Toby.
So sorry.
Or the new-fashioned Toby. But anyway, he. Anyway.
This has descended into chaos.
Please blink.
Dagan, there's vodka in that glass. I know. You just to get you through. I understand.
Dagan's like, what have I signed up for? These blooming Brits.
Dagan's going to announce his departure after this.
So there you have it. Now
yeah,
it's time.
Sorry, I'll start properly. I'll start properly. But yeah, I mean, he's been a near enough permanent feature in our team, barring the late Potter years. He's been a near enough permanent feature in our team since the year we got promoted. I mean, it goes to show how incredible he is and how adaptable he is. You know, he's played, as Cam said, in almost every position across the field, and as you said, Tom, as well. He's played left back, right back, holding. He's played the number 10 role. He's just excelled in every single position. I can't think of a bad game he's had, really. You know, he's had a few games where the whole team have had a stinker, but he's just been fantastic throughout. You know, he even to the point of having a better tackle completion rate than Caicedo. You know, he 59 tackles this year with a 59% success. It's not a huge number, sure, but it's better than Caicedo's rate of 50%. You know, he's instrumental in almost all of our goals. He has almost the most touches, almost the most passes. I don't think we need to look much further for anyone better than Pascal Gross at this point in our development. You know, he's just incredible, no matter where he plays. And I'll stop rambling.
Club legend, no doubt. Next up, we have a certain Lewis Carl Dunk, our club captain, a man who Toby once said he could envision going to Burnley.
I think I'm being misquoted here.
I think I remember Toby saying, yeah, Lewis Dunk's going to Burnley.
I remember that.
Do you know what? I think that was actually more like at the end of his career, it might, it'd be an irrelevant transfer. He is a one-club man at heart, and even if he went to Burnley, if he played against Brighton, he'd score 5 own goals. So, but he's not going to Burnley because he is with Brighton. And I almost feel like this is an unfair category for him to be a part of, because if it were down to a lot of Brighton fans, their internal bias would have him winning this every year. And I don't think he'll win this award because I don't want to give away who I voted for, but I feel like it would be unfair to just keep giving him the award because he keeps deserving it. So I think we need to have a Lewis Cole Dunk of the Year award and just give it to him every year, because he's always the same guy. He's always going to be Mr. Reliable, Mr. One Club Man, Mr. Passion. No one in world football goes out there loving the club the way he does love Brighton, and the way he has proven it time and time and time and time and time again. And I could keep going with the and times, but I'm going to stop there. Just an unbelievable guy to have around. It looks like, you watch Buzz's Boot Room quiz, it looks like he gets along with everyone, has a laugh with everyone. He looks like a glue in that squad. It will never change. No manager, no club bidding for him. Nothing will ever change that about the way he is as a man. He loves Brighton, and we rightfully love him back, and he deserves all the praise. And for me, he gets my Lewis Cole Dunk of the Year award.
Sensational. Dagan, what have you made of the captain's performances this season?
What? Right, I'm new here, but everything Toby just said rang true singularly this year. So I bring no historic bias to the Lewis Dunk experience, of the Lewis Dunk conversation. But when I think about the transition we made...
Can I just chip in there? The Lewis Dunk Experience is a fantastic name for a band.
Indeed it is. I think Dunk's transformation under De Zerbi, I think, mirrored and typifies the experience of the entire club. Right? Him sort of putting his foot on the ball, and sort of the change in our system to bringing, right, inviting that pressure, and sort of his comfort handling it. As a guy who, when you see him, looks, he's big, physical, enforcer. You don't expect the talent with his feet and the talent passing that he possesses. And I think we saw that as Brighton fans, and one of the big reasons we were saying, like, this guy should be playing for England because of his versatility. And I think, again, I didn't see him before, but I can only imagine we saw the very, very best of him this year. And so much of what we do, right, we're constantly talking about left back, right? And for all the accolades of Colwill, he wasn't close to as solid as Lewis Dunk at any point. Dunk, I can think of, a couple of miscues over the course of the year that, where he maybe could have been a bit better. That cost us a goal, but overwhelmingly our goals did not rest at his feet, and the number he saved far outweighed the number that was a result of a mistake he made. Just an invaluable player. You could almost put him in the unsung hero category, because I think he gets counted. Maybe Toby, your point is right, because he's sort of every year's player of the season. He gets discounted in a player of the season conversation, but he's certainly worthy of one. And I think our performance this year begins and ends with the leadership and the play of Lewis Dunk.
Very well put, Dagan. Really nicely put. And finally, we have the final man on the nominees list, Curtis, a man we've spoken about quite a lot tonight, but let's talk about him one more time. And that is Pervis Estupiñán, a man who came in to replace our player of the season. And I know we've already said it, but what a season Purvis has had.
Yeah, I mean, just again, to sort of reiterate what I said earlier, he just has really surprised me. I mean, because I had no idea, because I don't tend to watch footage on our new players before, because obviously they tend to play a lot different under new managers and whatnot. So, but yeah, he just, I mean, yeah, he had a bit of a shaky start, as most players tend to, but he really came into his own pretty quickly, and he's quite rapidly become one of my favourite players in that team. And you know, what can I say? I'm a pervert now. I'm a big fan of him. Big fan of him.
This award show has been absolutely phenomenal, and I've loved every second of it.
Thank you. I'm here all week.
Joseph, come back, because it's your turn now. And Joseph, we have talked about a lot of players this evening, and it has been a very hard category to decide the players, because let's face it, they could all be up there, because this is a team that are more than the sum of their parts. And it's been really hard to pick a single player out that deserves this. But I think the four that we've come back in, the four that we've chosen, deserve to be there. What do you make of the four players that the Albion Obsessed team have chosen for their player of the season?
I mean, there could have been 10. There could have been 11. You know, I could go on. This has been the season of our lifetimes. We've got very, very emotional towards the end of the season, and I think it's a credit to the whole squad of, you know, how they've, you know, solidified a place in our heart forever. This was the team that was going to get us to Europe for the first time, and it's just unbelievably special. The four players that are there, yes, all four of them deserve to be there, and Curtis is a perp. I can't do it. I can't do it.
My dad watches this, by the way, so.
I can't do it.
Shall I just go on to reveal who the winner is? I can now exclusively reveal that the Albie to player of the season, the first annual, by the way, goes to number 13, Pascal Gross.
Yeah.
There you have it. Pascal Gross wins the Albion Obsessed Albie for player of the season, and what a richly deserved award it is. I hear that he will be collecting it in person from Joe's house that he's just moved into in Hastings. He's going to bring the entourage with him. He's going to get Joe to sign it and everything. So exciting times. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me this evening, and thank you very much for sending me your nominations and your votes. I think we can all agree that the first annual Albies has been a colossal success, and no matter how much thunder and lightning there was, how much private chat banter there was, it's literally like Morse code, but we got through it in the end. So I would like to thank Joe, Dan, Curtis, Toby, Dagan, Cam, Chloe and Aaron for their time this evening. Thank you, viewers and listeners, for making it to the end of what has been a somewhat chaotic award show, but it's an award show. Would you expect anything less? Just be proud that no one's got up and slapped anyone yet. So, you know.
Oh, I would if I could. I would if I could.
Wherever you may be, whenever you may be, have a fantastic time. See you next time.